Hi, Analisa Six here from the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the horoscope for the zodiac sign of Libra for the month of October 2023. I am just a little tongue twistered already this morning. It's my first video of the day. I recorded the first six of the zodiac on the 5th. I believe today is the 7th that I'm getting through the rest of these videos. It is Libra season right now. Happy birthday to all of the October and September Libras. Unfortunately, due to getting COVID and having a really busy schedule over the summer, I was not able to get a September horoscope video up for anybody, and I'm bummed out about that, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. I also put a little bit more effort into how I got ready today, and I noticed that I'm gonna look a lot better in today's videos than I did in the first six videos, so that's kind of funny. But let's go ahead and dive right into your horoscope, Libra. It's your season. There's a lot going on for you this month in October. So we start out the month with the sun at 8 degrees of Libra. And we also have quite a few other celestial bodies in Libra. We have Mars starting out the month in Libra. We have Pallas Athena, which is an asteroid that's very similar to more of like a feminine archetype of wisdom, and also similar energy to Mars that is also in Libra. And then we also have the South Node in Libra. And the South Node and Mars kind of start out the month in a pretty tight conjunction. And, Mars conjunct the South Node in Libra is not, it's not a favorite energy of mine, but we could be dealing with, a lot of times this energy to me manifests as repressed anger or things from the past that are coming up for us that we realize we're still upset about or that we're working through, while also themes around whether or not something's fair or just. Libra rules justice and balance and harmony, and Mars is actually in detriment in this placement because Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so Mars being in its opposite of Libra is not the most comfortable energy for this sign. So oftentimes we can feel more conflict or disruption and balance or harmony. We can feel more like we want to advocate for fairness and justice. And we can also kind of do tit for tat type things, which Mars and Libra tends to do. Mars and Libra is very much about, is this fair? Do I feel like I'm being heard? There's, an opportunity in Libra for there to be passive aggressive tendencies. Mars doesn't necessarily want things to be passive aggressive, but Libra tends to avoid conflict. So Libras might be facing a lot of conflict right now where you're required to figure out how to advocate for yourself while also maybe being put in a position where being conflict avoidant is not working out for you. So, I think that not every Libra dominant person I know is necessarily conflict avoidant, but Libra on its own as an archetype tends to be more focused on the harmony or kind of what's the easiest kind of people pleasing road. And sometimes that's not always the best, right? Sometimes we need to advocate for ourselves. Sometimes being more passive or not necessarily honest or being more passive aggressive can lead to bigger conflict later. So that's something that Libra oftentimes has to learn how to do, is how to have healthy conflict, how to be more confrontational, and how to do it in a way that's constructive. And sometimes Libra will hold things in, and then by the time it comes out, it's not constructive and it's not something that's getting worked on constructively in the moment. And so it's one of those things too, to kind of put more thought into how you approach a problem or a situation before reacting. All of those types of themes are kind of coming up for us at the beginning of October. We also start October out with Venus in Leo. So Venus is going to be in the last few degrees of Leo for the first week of October. And we've had Venus in Leo since the end of June. And we had that big, long Venus retrograde in Leo that was really disruptive for a lot of people. And the area of the chart that this was hitting for the Libra horoscope is the area that has to do with community and friendship groups, and also groups that we might be associated with through organizations, nonprofits, political associations, those types of things. And so if you were in the middle of having a lot of conflict in your community or group dynamics that were, difficult or challenging, or if there was more focus in that area of your life, sometimes I think there isn't necessarily like overt conflict that has to be happening with a Venus retrograde, but sometimes it could mean that there's things that happen that shift the dynamic, or there's things that we have to approach in a way where maybe issues are coming up, and maybe it's not necessarily like an overt problem or conflict, but we're recognizing, oh, we need to figure out better, more constructive ways of handling things or doing these things in a group environment. So, many different types of group environments. This could be friendship circles. This could be, like I said, an organization that you're associated with, like a nonprofit or a political organization. This could be, this doesn't rule work. It's not necessarily the work area of the chart, but sometimes a lot of the stage for group dynamics can happen at work if there's a specific group that we're associated with. And a lot of times the work that we're involved in also involves aspects of the community, right? Like if we work in an environment where we interact with our community, that could also bring things up in this way, especially if the work environment is involved with community events. So if over, from June until now, October, you've been working on something or having something with a group, whether it's friends or community, that, you've been kind of having to sort things out and rework what works, essentially. Those have been big themes in the Libra horoscope. There's also a desire for community and friendships when Venus is passing through this area of the chart. And so if you've been feeling like you're looking for your friendship circle or, connecting with community more, that could also be something that came up for you, as kind of trying to find your place in your community, or kind of where you fit in, essentially, which I'm not really pro caring or trying to fit in necessarily, but it is important to feel like we have people, or it's important that we feel like we have people we can gain support from, or having a sense of community. That's definitely a human need, and something that's really valuable for a lot of us, and especially Libra. Like Libra tends to be a relational, social type energy. Even if you're an introvert, even if you're an introvert Libra, maybe you're not an extroverted social person, having people that you can connect with, or experience that connection with, can be really important or valuable for Libra, even if it's small, intimate connections. We also start out the month of October with Mercury in Virgo. However, now that it's the 7th, Mercury has actually already made its way into your sign of Libra. So we also have Mercury in Libra for a good chunk of October. And Mercury in Libra also wants harmony, wants to have more of this kind of passive, detached communication style, which is interesting because having Mars here, Mars elevates kind of more of this opportunity for conflict within some of these communication dynamics. But Mars and Mercury are only going to be in Libra together for a short period of time, like a week pretty much, because Mars by the middle of the month, by the 12th, is going to make its way into one of its home signs of Scorpio. So Mars will enter Scorpio on the 12th, and then will be there until the end of October. So it's leaving the area of the chart for you. Oh, and I should say too, all this Libra energy is happening in the area of the chart that has to do with your identity and your sense of self, the area that this hits in the horoscope. So a lot of times when we have, this stellium passing through the area of identity or the sense of self, we're reflecting a lot on who we are, who we want to be, what's our relationship to self. With Mars here, we might be experiencing some ambition or some drive towards really solidifying or trying to figure out who we are. If we have kind of a vision or a dream about who we are or who we want to be in life, we might also be in kind of that place of, I've got my sight set on this, and this is what I'm going after, and this is what I want. So there's definitely kind of a ambition energy that's elevated with Mars passing through this area. And Pallas Athena too. Pallas Athena here, we might be relying on some internal wisdom or some experiences where we feel more validated and kind of like we know who we are, we know where we want to operate from, we know what we want. And we might be feeling a lot of determination or drive to make that happen. Mercury here again, we might be thinking a lot about who we are, what we want out of life, what our relationship to self is. So then once Mars leaves Libra on the 12th and enters Scorpio, where it's going to be for the rest of October, it will enter the area of the Libra horoscope that has to do with our material security, our money, our finances, and also our self-worth. And so a lot of themes come up for us around those things for the month of October, because we'll also enter Scorpio season at the end of the month. And Mercury is going to move into this placement for the Libra horoscope on the 22nd. So Mercury will leave your sign of Libra and enter Scorpio on the 22nd. And then on the 24th, we enter Scorpio season where the sun is here. So basically by the end of October, even though you're kind of getting a little initiatory energy with Mars by the 12th, by the end of October, we're going to be in Scorpio season, which is going to be highlighting the area that has to do with your finances, material security, your relationship to money, value, self-worth, all of those things. And so, you know, you might, again, be feeling really ambitious towards whatever your financial goals are. There's a little bit of a power hungry kind of vibe here, but, you know, I think that, you know, and I say that because Scorpio rules kind of the energy where we're trying to harness our internal power, and Mars, you know, is domicile here, and it's in an area where maybe we feel inspired or motivated to gain more control or power over our finances. There's also opportunity when Mars is passing through this area for there to be sometimes some turbulence here. Again, it's in a place that it likes to be in, so it might not be negative for you. It might be, you know, something where maybe there's a little bit of bumps in the road, but maybe that's kind of something that leads you to getting more of what you need or want out of the situation. I say that too, because when the sun enters this area and is kind of shining a light here, that might also kind of boost some of the vitality or the energy here. Mercury also in Scorpio tends to be very investigative and likes to kind of sleuth things out. There's a lot of opportunity here for you to kind of figure out if there's a will, there's a way to whatever the goal is that you have. Mars here can also cause us to overdo or overspend a tiny bit if we're too reactionary. So making decisions about your finances or material security in a reactionary way, you're more likely to do with Mars passing through here, which is never really that great. You know, like sometimes it's better to think things through a little bit more than just reacting on a whim. But I'm also not here to tell you not to follow your gut. Like if you feel like there's a risk you need to take and you want to take it, like only you are going to know if that's a risk worth taking, right? So you know, you need to be a little bit mindful about when and what and why and all those things. But you know, maybe you'll be happy about it. I don't know. Earlier in the month too, if we want to scale back a little bit, Venus is finally going to be leaving Leo. So let's go back and kind of refresh on that. So Venus is, you know, been in this area that has to do with these group dynamics, friendship, all that kind of stuff. And then now she's finally leaving Leo and entering the sign of Virgo. And where she's hitting in the Libra horoscope chart has to do with the area that rules the subconscious and the dream world. And so we might start feeling more introverted. We might start feeling like we want to put more of a disciplined spiritual practice in place. Maybe we've been so social and so overly focused on our community and how we're connecting with others that we're starting to be a little burnt out and feel like we need to rein some of that energy in and bring it back to ourselves, right? From where the Libra stellium is, there is kind of a need to focus on the self. So Venus will be entering Virgo on the 9th. And so once the 9th hits, a lot of the things are going to be kind of bringing the transits are going to be bringing you back into more of this introverted, self-focused time. So you've spent the summer being a lot more extroverted and a lot more focused on others. And now you might be kind of in this point of burnout where you're a little bit like, okay, I need to call some of my energy back to me now. So that's a pretty fair synopsis on how Libra season is going to be impacting you. Let's get into the moon. So we have a new moon solar eclipse happening in your sign of Libra at 21 degrees Libra on October 14th. And again, that's going to be hitting in the area of the chart that has to do with identity. And so you might be in this place of reflecting on who you are, what you're doing in your life, and whether or not that's in alignment for you. And the eclipse might be kind of this make or break point for you with certain things in your life where you're ready to make some changes, or the change is already happening, whether you're feeling ready to make it or not. So eclipses tend to be winds of change kind of flowing through, and there's just not a lot we can do about it other than go with the flow and kind of like embrace it, allow it to come through, if that makes sense. You know how it is in life. There's like some things that we can really control and assert how we want it to go, and then there's just times when things are just happening and we feel like we still have agency in certain ways on how we react to it, what we choose to do within it, but at the same time sometimes we just have to go with the flow, right? So you might be feeling that way, especially because this is centered around your identity. So again, like you might feel called to make some changes around how you're relating to yourself, but those things might just be happening. You might just find yourself relating to yourself differently, relating to things in life differently. At the end of the month, on October 28th, we'll have our full moon lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus. And the area that that's hitting in the Libra horoscope chart is the area that has to do with shared assets and resources, sex, death, marriage, and transformation. And so, this area also highlights some of the oppositions that are happening in the area of Taurus, in Scorpio, because Mars, the Sun, and Mercury will be in Scorpio. While this is happening, I don't think anything's going to be exactly on this moon. Mercury will kind of be within some degrees. Oh, let's see. Jupiter's Jupiter and Mercury are going to be opposite. They're going to be making a direct opposition. It looks like the day of the that eclipse, we're going to have Mercury and Mars conjunct opposite Jupiter, and that's going to be kind of influencing that energy of the moon a little bit. So your money, your relationship to money, your relationship to self-worth, and your sense of material security is definitely coming up for review at this time, especially if there's assets involved, like homes, loans, tax stuff. If you're married, your marriage is going to come up, especially around money or shared resources, those types of things, and your relationship to that stuff. So you might experience some changes around that. You might kind of be reflecting on certain aspects of your life when it comes to your relationship to material things. And if you're married, your marriage might go through a little bit of turbulence, and not necessarily in a bad way. It could be turbulence where you're working things out, maybe around shared assets or resources, or just parts of how you're relating to each other intimately, things like that. So that's a big theme for you at the end of October. Okay, Libra, I think that's good. I'm going to move on to the next sign, and I hope you have a great October. If you want a bigger synopsis, or I guess less of a synopsis, a bigger dive into the transits, I do an astrology forecast for the entire month of October where I go through each week and cover more of the individual transits that are happening with the outer planets. It's more general, but it gives you a kind of deeper look on what is going on for the month. And if you liked this video, feel free to hit like, hit subscribe if you want notifications on when I post these. You can find me at theladyofleosure.com and thesobercurator.com. And happy Samhain. I will see you all next month.